The Empty Cup and the Lesson of Self-Respect. Have you ever felt like you're constantly giving, yet never receiving? Like a candle that burns bright for others, but is slowly melting away? What if I told you that self-respect is not about denying others, but about honoring yourself? In a peaceful village nestled between rolling hills, an old monk sat beneath a towering tree, known by all for his wisdom. One day, an elderly woman, weary and burdened, approached him. Her eyes carried the weight of years spent in quiet sacrifice. "Master," she whispered, "I feel exhausted. My whole life, I have cared for my husband, my children, my friends. I say yes to everyone, but inside, I feel empty." The monk smiled and lifted a simple clay cup. Without a word, he began pouring tea into it. He poured and poured, even as the tea overflowed, spilling onto the ground. The woman gasped, "Master, the cup is full. It can't take any more." The monk nodded. "And neither can you." She stood still, absorbing the truth in his words. For the first time, she saw herself not as selfish, but as someone who had given beyond her capacity. Self-respect is not about withholding love from others. It's about ensuring that your own well never runs dry. Are you feeling the same way? How often have you silenced your own needs for the sake of others? How many times have you said yes when your heart whispered no? You tell yourself it's kindness, but deep down, you know, you're running on empty. Buddha once said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the universe, deserve your love and affection." Yet, society conditions us to believe that prioritizing ourselves is selfish. But here's the truth. You cannot give from an empty cup. Imagine carrying a lantern with no oil. How can you light the way for others? To truly show up for the people you love, you must first show up for yourself. It is not selfishness. It is sustenance. It is strength. It is self-respect. The woman's story is the story of many. Perhaps it is your story too. But here's the good news. You can change. Self-respect is not about becoming hard or unkind. It's about finding balance, learning to say no without guilt, and embracing your worth. In the next sections, we will uncover the habits that silently erode our self-worth, learn how to set firm but compassionate boundaries, and most importantly, discover how to live with self-respect, without apology. Your journey begins now. Are you ready? Recognizing the habit of people-pleasing. There is a quiet exhaustion that comes from always trying to please others. A weariness that settles deep within when your life becomes a constant negotiation between what you truly want and what others expect of you. It begins subtly, with small compromises, a nod of agreement when you would rather object, a forced smile when your heart is weary. Over time, these moments accumulate, chipping away at your sense of self until you barely recognize the person you have become. People-pleasing often masks itself as kindness, as selflessness, as being easygoing. You tell yourself that agreeing keeps the peace, that saying yes makes you a good person. But in the quiet hours of the night, when you reflect on your choices, there is a lingering emptiness. You feel unseen, unheard, as if your existence is shaped solely by the needs of others. Every unspoken opinion, every suppressed desire, every forced compliance is a small betrayal of your own soul. At the heart of this habit lies fear. The fear of rejection, the fear of conflict, the fear of not being loved. From childhood, we are taught that being agreeable earns approval, that putting others first is a virtue. And while generosity is beautiful, it must have limits. Without boundaries, kindness becomes a burden rather than a gift. And love becomes obligation rather than choice. The cost of constantly prioritizing others is steep. You begin to doubt your own worth, questioning if your needs are even valid. Your relationships feel one-sided, as though you are always giving while others are always taking. Resentment builds, not just toward those around you, but towards yourself for allowing it to happen. The exhaustion is no longer just emotional. It manifests physically. Tension in your shoulders, a heaviness in your chest, an inexplicable fatigue that lingers no matter how much rest you get. Breaking free from the cycle of people-pleasing requires courage. It demands that you face the discomfort of saying no, that you sit with the uneasy feeling of not always being liked. It means understanding that your value is not determined by how much you accommodate others, but by how much you honor yourself. It is learning to speak with clarity rather than hesitation, to make choices that align with your well-being rather than out of fear of disappointing someone else. There will be moments of doubt, times when the old patterns feel easier than the new. But each time you choose yourself, each time you say no without guilt, each time you express what you truly feel, you reclaim a part of yourself that was lost. You step out of the shadows of compliance and into the light of self-respect. Your needs matter. Your voice matters. You are not here to be a reflection of others' expectations. You are here to be fully, unapologetically yourself. And that journey begins with recognizing where you have given too much of yourself away and deciding that you are worthy of taking it back. The harm of excessive apologizing. There is a subtle but significant way in which we diminish ourselves by constantly apologizing for things that do not require an apology. The words, "I'm sorry," should be an expression of genuine regret, yet, for many, they have become a reflex, uttered even when no wrongdoing has occurred. It is the habit of those who fear inconvenience, those who have been conditioned to believe that their presence, their needs, or their desires are burdensome. Every unnecessary apology is a small act of self-erasure, a reinforcement of the idea that we must justify our existence. When you say, "I'm sorry" for expressing an opinion, for taking up space, for needing help, you are subtly telling yourself, and others, that your needs are secondary. You apologize for being tired, for asking a question, for speaking too loudly, for simply existing in a way that might inconvenience someone else. And with each apology, your confidence erodes, your sense of self diminishes, and you become smaller in a world that already asks you to shrink. Excessive apologizing is not merely a habit. It is a deeply ingrained response to societal conditioning. Many of us learned early in life that politeness meant deference, that being agreeable meant being liked, that to avoid conflict we must minimize ourselves. Over time, these lessons weave themselves into our daily interactions, leaving us hesitant, cautious, and perpetually concerned about how we are perceived. But what happens when we no longer filter our worth through the lens of constant apology? When we begin to recognize that taking up space is not an offense? Imagine a life where you could confidently express yourself without prefacing your thoughts with an unnecessary apology, where your voice was not tempered by guilt or the need for approval. How would it feel to step fully into your power, to own your presence in any room without hesitation? The harm of excessive apologizing goes beyond personal self-worth. It shapes how others perceive you. When you constantly apologize, people may see you as unsure, lacking conviction, someone whose words and presence do not carry weight. Over time, you may find that your opinions are overlooked, your boundaries ignored, your value questioned, not because you lack worth, but because you have unconsciously taught others to devalue you. Self-respect begins with recognizing the power of your words. Before you say, "I'm sorry," pause. Ask yourself if an apology is truly warranted, or if you are merely seeking approval, softening your presence to make others more comfortable. Instead of apologizing for your needs, honor them. Instead of saying, "Sorry for being late," say, "Thank you for waiting." Instead of whispering, "Sorry to bother you," say, "Do you have a moment?" Small changes create profound shifts in how you see yourself and how the world sees you. Breaking free from the cycle of excessive apologizing requires intention. It starts with self-awareness, paying attention to the moments when you apologize, reflexively. The next step is reframing your words, choosing language that affirms rather than diminishes you. It is a process of unlearning, of slowly peeling away the layers of self-doubt and fear that have kept you bound to the habit of over-apologizing. It is not about arrogance or refusing to acknowledge genuine mistakes. It is about balance, about knowing when an apology is necessary and when it is simply a learned behavior of self-minimization. It is about replacing fear with confidence, guilt with assurance, hesitation with clarity. It is about trusting that you have the right to be here, to be heard, to be seen, without apology. You are not an inconvenience. You do not need to apologize for existing. You are enough, just as you are. Setting boundaries with respect. Boundaries are not walls meant to keep people out. They are the gates that protect your peace, your time, and your emotional well-being. They are an act of self-respect, a declaration that your needs, feelings, and energy are just as valuable as anyone else's. Yet, many struggle to set boundaries, fearing they will be perceived as unkind or distant. In reality, clear boundaries foster healthier relationships, built on mutual respect rather than silent resentment. When you fail to set boundaries, you invite others to take control of your time and energy. You become exhausted, overextended, and at times, invisible in your own life. You may say yes when your heart pleads for no. Allow others to make demands on your time that you cannot afford. Or remain silent when something deeply bothers you. And over time, this pattern chips away at your sense of self-worth, leaving you feeling trapped in obligations that do not serve you. The first step in setting boundaries is recognizing where they are needed. Pay attention to the moments when you feel drained, resentful, or anxious. These feelings are not weaknesses. They are signals, alerting you to areas where your limits are being ignored. Do you feel depleted after certain conversations? Do you say yes out of guilt rather than genuine willingness? Do you find yourself constantly putting others ahead of your own well-being? If so, it is time to reclaim your space. Setting boundaries does not require anger or confrontation. It requires clarity and consistency. Express your needs with honesty, without over-explaining or justifying them. "I need time for myself this evening" is enough. "I won't be able to take on that responsibility" is a complete statement. You do not owe anyone an elaborate excuse for prioritizing yourself. Some may resist your boundaries, especially if they have benefited from your lack of them. They may push back, guilt trip, or try to make you feel selfish. But standing firm is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of self-preservation. Those who truly respect and care for you will adjust. Those who continue to disregard your limits were only interested in what they could take from you, not in your well-being. Boundaries also extend beyond relationships with others. They include the commitments you make to yourself. They mean recognizing when you need rest and taking it, honoring your own decisions without second-guessing, and choosing peace over unnecessary conflict. They are a daily practice, not a one-time declaration. The more you enforce them, the more natural they become. Imagine living a life where you no longer feel stretched beyond your capacity, where your energy is preserved for the things and people that truly matter. This is the power of boundaries. They are not selfish. They are necessary. They are a form of self-love, a reminder to yourself and the world that you are worthy of respect. And the moment you decide to honor your own limits, everything begins to change. Learning to say no without guilt. Saying no is one of the most powerful yet difficult things to do, especially for those who have spent a lifetime prioritizing the needs of others over their own. It can feel uncomfortable, as though we are rejecting someone or letting them down. But learning to say no is not about pushing people away. It is about protecting your energy, honoring your limits, and ensuring that your life is guided by your own priorities rather than dictated by the expectations of others. Many struggle with saying no because they equate it with selfishness. They fear disappointing people, damaging relationships, or appearing unkind. But the reality is, Every time you say yes to something that does not serve you, you are saying no to something that does. Your time, energy, and emotional well-being are finite resources. If you spend them trying to satisfy every request that comes your way, you will have little left for yourself and the things that truly matter. It is important to recognize that saying no does not mean you do not care. It simply means you are choosing to care for yourself as well. People who genuinely respect you will understand this. Those who take offense at your boundaries were likely benefiting from your lack of them. It is not your responsibility to make everyone happy at the expense of your own peace. One of the first steps in learning to say no without guilt is shifting your mindset. Instead of viewing it as rejection, see it as an act of self-respect. Remind yourself that your worth is not determined by how much you do for others, but by how much you value yourself. It is not cruel to set limits. It is necessary. Practice saying no with confidence and kindness. You do not need to offer lengthy explanations or excuses. A simple, direct response is often enough. I appreciate you thinking of me, but I won't be able to commit to that. If you feel compelled to soften your refusal, you can express gratitude or offer an alternative. I'm honored you asked, but I can't this time. Maybe another time. Keep in mind that over-explaining often invites negotiation, and before you know it, you may find yourself saying yes to something you never intended to agree to. Another key aspect of saying no is understanding that it is not your job to manage how others feel about your decision. You are not responsible for their disappointment or frustration. People are allowed to feel how they feel, but that does not mean you have to sacrifice your own needs to accommodate them. The discomfort of saying no is temporary, but the exhaustion of constantly saying yes can last much longer. It is also helpful to reflect on past experiences where you agreed to something against your better judgment. How did it make you feel? Did it lead to resentment, stress, or regret? Use these moments as reminders that your instincts are worth trusting. If something does not feel right for you, honor that feeling. Your intuition exists for a reason. Saying no becomes easier with practice. Start with small situations, such as declining an invitation or setting limits on your availability. Each time you choose yourself, you reinforce the idea that your needs are valid. Over time, it will become second nature, and you will notice a shift, not only in how others treat you but in how you see yourself. You will feel lighter, freer, and more in control of your life. Imagine a life where you no longer feel obligated to say yes out of guilt, where your decisions are based on what is truly best for you. This is what self-respect looks like. It is standing firm in your choices, not because you do not care about others, but because you have learned to care for yourself too. Saying no is not a rejection of others. It is an affirmation of yourself. And the more you practice it, the stronger and more liberated you will become. Building confidence and self-respect. Confidence is not something you are born with. It is something you build, cultivate, and strengthen through deliberate choices and actions. It is the foundation of self-respect, the quiet assurance that you are enough, exactly as you are. Without confidence, self-respect crumbles, leaving you vulnerable to self-doubt, external validation, and the fear of disappointing others. But with confidence, you stand firm in your decisions, speak with conviction, and embrace your worth without hesitation. True confidence is not arrogance or the need to prove yourself to others. It is a deep, unwavering belief in your abilities, your value, and your right to exist without apology. It is understanding that your worth is not determined by how much you do for others, how well you meet societal expectations, or how perfectly you perform. Confidence is built in small moments. When you honor your boundaries, when you trust your intuition, when you choose yourself despite the discomfort it may bring. One of the greatest obstacles to confidence is the habit of seeking external validation. Many people rely on the approval of others to feel good about themselves, making their self-worth contingent on how they are perceived. This is a dangerous cycle, as the opinions of others are fleeting and ever-changing. true confidence comes from within, from the quiet understanding that you are whole, independent of external praise or criticism. When you stop looking outward for validation and start looking inward, you reclaim your power. To cultivate confidence, start by acknowledging your strengths. Too often, people focus on their shortcomings, magnifying their perceived flaws while downplaying their abilities. Shift your focus. Recognize the challenges you have overcome, the skills you have developed, and the unique qualities that make you who you are. Keep a journal of your accomplishments, no matter how small. Remind yourself daily of your strengths and the value you bring to the world. Another crucial aspect of confidence is self-compassion. Many struggle with self-doubt because they are their own harshest critics. They hold themselves to unrealistic standards, berating themselves for every mistake and perceived failure. But confidence is not about perfection. It is about resilience. It is about embracing your imperfections, learning from your missteps, and understanding that growth is a continuous process. Speak to yourself with kindness, the way you would speak to a dear friend. Replace self-criticism with self-encouragement. Instead of saying, "I'm not good enough," say, "I am learning and I am growing." Confidence is also built through action. You cannot think your way into feeling confident. You must act your way into it. Take small risks. Step outside your comfort zone. Speak up even when your voice shakes. Try new things, even if you are afraid of failing. Every time you push past fear, you prove to yourself that you are capable. Confidence grows with experience, with each step forward reinforcing your belief in yourself. Body language also plays a significant role in confidence. Stand tall. Make eye contact. Speak clearly and with assurance. The way you carry yourself sends a message to both yourself and others. When you adopt a posture of confidence, your mind follows suit. Studies have shown that standing in a strong, open posture for even a few minutes can increase feelings of confidence and reduce stress. Surround yourself with people who uplift and support you. Confidence is not just an internal process. It is also influenced by the environment you create. Choose relationships that nourish your self-worth rather than deplete it. Spend time with those who see your value. Encourage your growth and respect your boundaries. Distance yourself from those who belittle you, make you doubt yourself, or take advantage of your kindness. The people around you should inspire confidence, not diminish it. Most importantly, confidence is a lifelong practice. There will be days when self-doubt creeps in, when you feel uncertain or insecure. That is normal. But confidence is not about never feeling doubt. It is about not letting doubt control you. It is about showing up for yourself even on the hard days. Trusting that you are capable, worthy, and enough. It is about building a foundation of self-respect so strong that no external force can shake it. Imagine a life where you no longer question your worth, where you walk into any room with the quiet certainty that you belong. This is the power of confidence. It is the key to self-respect, the anchor that keeps you grounded in your truth. And the best part? It is within your reach. Every time you choose yourself, every time you honor your worth, every time you take a step forward despite fear, you are building unshakable confidence. And with it, you are creating a life that is truly yours. Developing emotional intelligence. Mastering your emotions. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, manage, and express emotions in a healthy and constructive way. It is the foundation of strong relationships, resilience, and self-respect. Without emotional intelligence, we become reactive, easily influenced by external circumstances, and unable to navigate the complexities of human interaction. But with it, we cultivate inner peace, clarity, and the ability to respond rather than react. One of the most important aspects of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. Many people go through life being controlled by their emotions without fully understanding them. They feel anger, sadness, frustration, or anxiety, but do not take the time to examine the root causes of these feelings. Developing self-awareness requires us to pause and observe our emotions rather than being consumed by them. It means asking ourselves, why am I feeling this way? What triggered this response? What can I learn from this emotion? When we take the time to understand our emotions, we gain the power to manage them rather than letting them control us. Managing emotions does not mean suppressing them. Many people mistakenly believe that emotional control means shutting down feelings, but this only leads to internal turmoil. Instead, managing emotions involves acknowledging them, processing them, and choosing how to respond. If anger arises, rather than lashing out, we can step back, take a deep breath, and decide on a constructive course of action. If sadness lingers, we can allow ourselves to feel it, but also remind ourselves that it is temporary and that healing is possible. Emotional mastery is not about eliminating emotions, but about guiding them in a way that serves us rather than harms us. Another essential aspect of emotional intelligence is empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. True self-respect does not mean shutting others out, but rather knowing how to balance personal boundaries with compassion. When we cultivate empathy, we build stronger, more meaningful relationships. We learn to listen without immediately reacting, to put ourselves in another's shoes, and to offer support without sacrificing our own needs. Empathy strengthens our ability to communicate, resolve conflicts, and navigate social interactions with wisdom and grace. Emotional intelligence also involves recognizing unhealthy thought patterns and replacing them with more constructive ones. Many people are trapped in cycles of negativity, where fear, doubt, or insecurity dictate their actions. They may assume the worst, dwell on past mistakes, or catastrophize the future. Developing emotional intelligence means learning to challenge these thoughts and replace them with a more balanced perspective. Instead of thinking, I will never succeed, reframe it as, I am learning and improving every day. Instead of believing, people are against me, shift to, I can communicate openly and set boundaries with confidence. Small shifts in perspective can have a profound impact on emotional well-being. Practicing mindfulness is a powerful way to enhance emotional intelligence. Mindfulness means being fully present in the moment, observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment. When we practice mindfulness, we cultivate inner stillness and clarity, making it easier to respond to situations with wisdom rather than impulse, whether through meditation, deep breathing, or simply pausing to check in with ourselves throughout the day. Mindfulness allows us to create space between our emotions and our reactions, giving us the power to choose how we engage with the world. Emotional intelligence also involves the ability to let go. Many people hold on to anger, resentment, or past wounds, allowing these emotions to dictate their present. But true self-respect means knowing when to release what no longer serves us. Holding onto negative emotions does not punish those who have wronged us. It only weighs us down. Letting go does not mean forgetting or condoning hurtful actions. It means freeing ourselves from their grip so we can move forward with peace and clarity. Forgiveness, both of ourselves and others, is a profound act of emotional strength. Mastering emotional intelligence is a lifelong journey. It requires patience, practice, and self-reflection. There will be moments when emotions feel overwhelming, when old patterns resurface, and when setbacks occur. But with each step forward, we build resilience, inner strength, and a deeper connection to ourselves. The ability to manage emotions is not just about creating a more peaceful life. It is about reclaiming our power, fostering healthier relationships, and stepping fully into our authenticity. When we master our emotions, we master ourselves. And that is the ultimate foundation of self-respect, accepting yourself and living authentically. True self-respect begins with acceptance. The ability to embrace who you are without shame, guilt, or the need for external approval. Many people spend their lives trying to fit into expectations, molding themselves into versions that they believe will be more likable, more successful, or more accepted. But what is the cost of this endless striving? When we abandon our true selves to seek validation, we lose our sense of identity. And no amount of approval can fill that void. Accepting yourself does not mean settling or refusing to grow. It means understanding that you are worthy as you are, even as you continue evolving. It is about looking at yourself, flaws, strengths, past mistakes, and all, with compassion rather than judgment. We are often our own harshest critics, replaying our failures and shortcomings in our minds, convincing ourselves that we are not enough. But the truth is, growth and imperfection coexist. The journey of self-respect is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming real, about owning your story with pride rather than shame. Living authentically means letting go of the need to please everyone. It means making choices based on your values, desires, and inner truth, rather than on the expectations of others. This can be difficult, especially if you have spent years being conditioned to believe that your worth is tied to external validation. But freedom is found in authenticity. When you stop performing for the world and start embracing yourself as you truly are, you experience a profound sense of liberation. You no longer need permission to exist fully. You simply allow yourself to be. One of the biggest barriers to authenticity is fear. The fear of rejection, the fear of standing out, the fear of not being enough. But ask yourself, what is more painful? Living a life that is not truly yours, or risking the discomfort of being seen for who you really are? The truth is, the people who genuinely value you will accept you as you are. And those who cannot accept your authenticity were never meant to be part of your journey. When you live authentically, you attract relationships that are real, connections that are based on truth rather than pretense. Self-acceptance also means embracing your past without letting it define you. Many people carry the weight of regret, holding on to mistakes as if they are permanent stains on their character. But the past does not determine your worth. Every experience, even the painful ones, has shaped you into who you are today. Instead of resenting your past, honor it as a part of your journey. Growth is a process, and healing comes when you learn to forgive yourself and move forward. Imagine a life where you no longer apologize for who you are, where you walk through the world with confidence, not because you are perfect, but because you are at peace with yourself. This is what it means to truly respect yourself, to stand in your own truth, unapologetically, to recognize that you are enough, exactly as you are, in this moment. And when you embrace that truth, you give others permission to do the same. The world does not need another version of who you think you should be. It needs you, the real, unfiltered, beautifully imperfect you. Self-respect is not selfishness. It is self-love. At the heart of self-respect lies a profound truth. Prioritizing yourself is not selfish. It is an act of love. Society often conditions us to believe that putting ourselves first means neglecting others, that choosing our well-being over external expectations is an act of defiance. But the reality is, self-respect is the foundation upon which all other forms of love are built. Without it, we cannot form meaningful relationships, set healthy boundaries, or cultivate a life that aligns with our true values. Loving yourself does not mean disregarding others. It means recognizing that your needs, feelings, and dreams matter just as much as anyone else's. It is about acknowledging that you are worthy of care, kindness, and space to grow. When you respect yourself, you teach others how to treat you. You set the standard for how you deserve to be loved, spoken to, and valued. And in doing so, you create a life filled with authenticity, not compromise. There will be moments when doubt creeps in, when old habits whisper that you must prove your worth through sacrifice, when guilt tries to convince you that prioritizing yourself is wrong. But remember this: you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot offer love, support, and energy to others if you are constantly drained, depleted, and disconnected from your own needs. The most profound way to show up for others is to first show up for yourself. Choosing self-respect is not always easy. It requires courage to say no, to walk away from relationships that no longer serve you, to stand firm in your boundaries, and to embrace your authentic self despite external pressures. But every time you choose yourself, you reinforce the belief that you are enough, that your existence alone is valid, that your voice, your presence, your dreams, all of it, is worthy of space in this world. Imagine the freedom of living without fear of judgment, without the constant need to seek approval. Imagine embracing yourself fully, flaws and all, and knowing deep in your heart that you are worthy of love and respect simply because you exist. This is the power of self-respect. It is not about being superior, indifferent, or detached. It is about standing in your own truth with confidence and grace. As you move forward, carry this truth with you. Self-respect is not selfishness. It is the purest form of self-love. And when you honor yourself, you set an example for those around you. You give them permission to do the same, to embrace their own worth, to live without apology. The journey to self-respect is not always linear, but it is always worth it. Because in the end, the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. And that relationship deserves to be built on love, acceptance, and unwavering respect.